Time for a female Bond, right? Especially now that there's been Wonder Woman.
Beyond time.
The name's Lashana Lynch. I am so excited about this. Apparently, Lashana is our new 007.
They'll print anything these days.
It's no secret the Daniel Craig 007 flicks have been bland, James Bland, but what they weren't, at least until recently, was woke. Part of this owes to the last fucking flick being released before the Trumpicaust caused the Tinseltown Trotskyites to shed their faux moderate faceplates and plow prick first into propaganda town. I shall now quote from the 9 billionth interchangeable movie website, weathering its remaining fruit fly fucking lifespan as it parasitically subsists off Hollywood's waning creativity, because apparently that is no longer the case. Quote, described as a popcorn-dropping moment, British actress Lashana Lynch will be introduced by M to Bond in Bond 25 as the new 007. To be clear, Lynch is not Jane Bond, and Bond is still Bond. He's just no longer going to be Agent 007. Putting aside that anyone who's read the beginning of Moonraker, and holy fuck, were there ever a shitload of armchair Einsteins pretending they have on Twitter to rationalize this dog shit yesterday, 00 codes ain't exactly handed out like super spy hand-me-downs from agent to agent. The beginning of said novel goes into some detail, explaining there's only a small handful of 00 agents, and most don't even have a license to kill. The same reason the film of the same fucking name, the first to not be based on Fleming's novels by the by, was received in some circles like a steaming hot wildebeest turd. 007 ain't an Xbox Live achievement, you tits. A select few, called from a pool shallow enough to double as Anthony Fontano's music analysis, murder like a motherfucker while in military service, and are plucked from obscurity to become international men of mystery thereby. But the worst part about this upending of Fleming's actual intent is that it sort of kind of buries the fucking lead. Sometime back, I tweeted out a story that slipped by most commentators at the time. From back through the most distant tracks of time in early April 2019, quote, James Bond 25 hires feminist writer to modernize film for #MeToo era. Reported far and fucking wide, most dismissed it as mere hyperbole or callow clickbaitery at the time, but this most recent revelation appears to confirm every abiding fear of the so-called man-children, referred to as such by the muckraking media, I can only assume, because they actually intend at some point to have some fucking children. The cheek. From this week's Lashana Lynch reveal article, quote, clearly attracted to his replacement, Bond himself will reportedly be up to his old tricks when he meets Lynch's character by trying to seduce her with his trademark charm. According to the source, however, Bond is baffled when they don't work on a brilliant young black woman who basically rolls her eyes at him and has no interest in jumping into his bed. Perhaps James has finally met his match after all these years. Ah, what better way to expose yourself to an all-new audience that will make a 9-to-5 occupation out of professionally ignoring your fucking film? But for those of us far from enamored with the marginally masculine mediocrity that's typified the Daniel Craig era, I find myself shaken but hardly stirred to action. I've said it before and taken the resultant slings and arrows, but I always sort of kind of felt the Craig era was incrementally aimed more at the female fucking audience. Needless to say, early promo shots of the new star in a Speedo, cock rocks akimbo, and Casino Royale resoundingly fucking failed to disabuse me of this notion. Previous entries spotlighted some starlet in a slingback thong with a physique that owed more to Goodyear than God to sell tickets. The new movies had man meat on the menu, which in retrospect should have been a fucking sign. But to me, it's not even the pussy politics menstruating all over the parade here. The syndrome goes deeper altogether, right to the upturned literary roots of the character that's only been sporadically based on the books for, the last 3 fucking decades or so. This in spite of at least 3 stories never once being adapted to the screen to begin with. I mean, listen, bitch, Bond is a pulp character. A red pill I recommend you ingest at your earliest possible convenience via the radio interview between Ian Fleming and inveterate pulp slinger Raymond Chandler himself mere months before the latter's drinking himself to death-related illness claimed his career and ultimately his life. Now, personally, I don't think Fleming's in the same fucking league as old owl-faced fucking Raymundo there, but treating yourself to the 2 bandying favorable comparisons between hard-boiled detective Philip Marlowe of Raymond Chandler's work and James Bond of Fleming's, particularly the portion where Fleming describes how he was inspired by the former fucking character, will utterly demolish any illusions you may have harbored that this is a character who was crafted for modernity.
As far as heroes are concerned, because your hero
Philip Marlowe is a real hero. I mean, he behaves in a heroic fashion. My leading character, James Bond, I never intended to be a hero. I intended him to be a sort of blunt instrument wielded by a government department who would get into bizarre and fantastic situations and more or less shoot his way out of them.
Well, that's all right. A man in his job can't afford tender emotions.
Well, that's what I feel.
He feels them, but he has to quell them.
Yes. On the other hand, Philip Marlowe feels them and speaks about them.
We're not here due to women's rights or breathless post-Brexit hysteria, but the far greater affront of fucking mediocrity. We didn't lose the plot because third wave femfucks had to stick their nose rings into the entertainment industry's every orifice. This series lost the plot when we stopped at least attempting to adapt the pulps. If we'd remained faithful, even while reimagining plots and concepts from the sensational novels, there would have been no door for these dipshits to walk through, and that's on us as consumers for rewarding them for doing so. Look, I love GoldenEye, but I'll happily exchange it for a franchise that ain't in commercial and creative freefall. Lacking the literary North Star of Fleming himself, it would appear the franchise has fallen prey to the modern movie approach of ham-fisting femme politics forcibly for an audience overwhelmingly opposed to such into a secret agent series with 24 fucking alternatives to even watching it. Pretty smooth flying, Fox. Now let's see you fucking land. How you gonna force us down for a vigorous femme fucking in filmic form when there's more Bond flicks than fucking Osmonds? Even if you've seen them all, you'll forget what you goddamn saw by the time you're at the end of the series. Look, we can see the writing on the wall here. The fact that you no longer adjust your worldwide box office totals for inflation tells half the tale, frankly. Between Skyfall and Spectre, you misplaced, 200 mil in movie ticket receipts. I'm sure it fucking smarts. As sad as it is to say, we've succumbed to wokeness not out of any genuine ideological expression or even the more marginally principled motivation of propaganda. No, folks, we're here for one reason and one reason alone: distilled essence of desperation, leaving me and many others not so much outraged, but far worse, fucking indifferent for the foreseeable future. As such, I suppose until the inevitable reboot, I'll have to busy myself with alternative efforts like Mission Impossible 7, though I confess it gets harder and harder to believe the mission is impossible after he's already done it 6 fucking times. Hey, Cruz, you want a true Mission Impossible? Tell me what's on top of the fridge, you homo fucking hobbit. I'm Razor Fist. God fucking speed.